Hi everyone, I am coming on for my weekly video today to talk about the limbic system. I have had some requests to talk more in depth about what limbic system retraining really is and why it is so important and how to go about doing it. There is a reason that my 6 support protocols in my book Rebuild Yourself are basically bookended by limbic system retraining. I often will use the term nervous system retraining interchangeably with limbic system retraining because ultimately we're really talking about the same thing. But it really is the foundation of all healing. Like you can do any healing practice you want. You could do the diet, the supplements, the detox, all the things. And if your limbic system is not on board, if your nervous system is not in the right state, there's only so much benefit you're going to get out of it. And so that is why the first protocol and the last protocol are all about how to get your nervous system into a state that is receptive to healing. Now, we focus on the limbic system when we talk about this because this is the seat of emotional memory. So, when you recall something and you get that kind of like choked up or tingly or really activated feeling in your body, that's your limbic system activated. So it is where we have that marriage of memories, like very intense formative memories and high emotionality. So it really is where we get the primal instincts for survival coming in with a very specific memory that comes from very important developmental parts of our life or in relation to really strong attachment relationships or a time when maybe on some level we felt like our life was at risk. So these very intense formative memories and the primal instincts and very primal emotions kind of come in and bam! That's what the limbic system is. All mammals have a limbic system, right? So this concept of emotional memory, it's not just humans that have it. All mammals do. So this is why, for example, you might get a rescue dog and then you find out that your rescue dog is always kind of wary around men with beards. And then you find out that their previous owner, who maybe was abusive, was a man with a beard, right? So it's not just humans who have these intensive formative memory associations with high, emotionality and fear. This is what getting triggered is. Right? So, there's a lot of talk around triggers these days, right? And a lot more understanding of trauma and PTSD and how that all works. But we have often and everyone gets triggered, right? This is a universal response. So people who say they don't, they're are lying, right? This is a primal mechanism, again, that even something like a dog would have. So all humans have this. Again, it's just when memories are tied to these high emotions and we have this very intense physiological response when we encounter anything that reminds us of that memory. So, like I said, this is not an inherently bad part of the brain. This is not inherently a damaging mechanism. There's a reason that it evolved. There's a reason that all mammals have this, and there's a reason that everyone has the potential to get triggered, and everyone does. The problem happens, just like with anything related to a stress response, when it's chronically overactivated due to recurrent stress or trauma, right? So if we get a little jumpy when we are in a let's see, like a savanna, right? Like where lions might be hiding in the grass, and we have, maybe had a bad experience of being startled or chased by a predator in the past, and we get a little triggery, we get a little jumpy when we're in that kind of environment again, because we have this highly charged emotional memory related to that kind of situation. That is what the limbic system is for, and that is very smart because you are at higher risk in a situation like that to potentially not survive unless you're really on your game and your fear response is really activated and you're already kind of prepped in fight or flight mode, ready to go just in case something goes down. So super, super important. But again, what often happens in modern life, because we have this inundation of chronic stress and trauma. These experiences are so normal in our society, in like a day-to-day kind of situation, right? Not just like a couple times a year something really intense happens, maybe there's a flood, or something like that. But like just day-to-day, all the little stressors and microaggressions of life, our brains get stuck in a feedback loop, right? And this is where chronic mental and physical illness start manifesting. So we have to rebalance this. We have to trick our brain into thinking that those constant stressors and microaggressions do not exist. And we have to provide new feedback into our environment to get ourselves out of this loop and to get our bodies back into a state where it can heal and recover and be resilient. So this requires a really dedicated shift because, like I was saying, our current modern society, the environment is by default stressful and traumatizing. And stress and trauma are a normal part of life. I'm not saying that people living in traditional societies are free of stress and trauma. They have it. We all do. Again, wild animals have it. Dogs have it. Deer have it, right? We all have stressful and traumatic things happen to us, and we have these mechanisms so we can get through it and we can survive. But the level, again, of just accumulation without relief is very unique to modern society. And so it really takes the dedication of shifting your daily routines and practices to get yourself out of this loop. So let me see, where am I here? I have a little list of things I want to talk about. Okay, so this is what happens a lot of times. So people will start getting onto a therapeutic diet. They will start a detox practice. They will start some new supplements, right? Maybe they'll even, do something small, like saying, well, I'm going to start doing more self-care, or something like that. But they have the same overall structure to their life, right? And this is often like, their personality is the same. They like vent and complain with their girlfriends, on their daily walk. They go to their spin class. They go on their morning jog. They scroll on their phones. They watch the news while they're drinking their morning coffee. They notice all the things that their partner does that annoys them throughout the day. And then they come home and they watch a couple episodes of the new zombie show that just came out, and then they go to bed. I'm calling myself out a little bit because I just started watching a zombie show and I'm having to be like really careful with how I structure this into my routine so I don't get stuck in back into this, because this is my tendency too. We all have it. So you may feel like you're doing self-care, right? Maybe you're eating healthy in this routine. Maybe you even, start taking a yoga class that has the little, final 5 minutes of meditation built into the class, and you're taking a second, you're breathing, you're being present. You feel like, oh, I'm watching funny TikToks on my phone, when I get home to unwind, and this has helped me relax. So you may feel like you're living a very healthy, full of self-care life, and you have things to help you wind down. I'm telling you, if you are dealing with a chronic mental or physical illness, this is not going to do it. This kind of like standard type of like people thinking that they're having a healthy routine that's kind of somewhat like what I described, that is not going to do it. What you are doing is you are stuck in comfort and familiarity. You're not actually regulating your nervous system, and you're not actually promoting more of a positivity bias. It's just not going to happen with this kind of standard day-to-day routine. So you really need to actually start changing the daily inputs of your environment, and often spend a minimum of an hour a day doing activities that start to retrain your brain to see positive and uplifting things in the world. And for some people who are really stuck in more severe chronic illness and mental illness, you need 2 hours a day. Now, often this is kind of like the baseline of life, and then people get chronically sick, right? Or people get very mentally ill, and then they're not even doing that routine. Maybe you're bedbound most of the day. Maybe you get back from work and all you can do is lie on the couch, right? Maybe you're just totally taken out by depression and anxiety. You can barely leave your room, but you're still stuck in these loops, right? So your brain is still doing the same routine, right? Even if you're not actually getting out of your house and doing those things, you're still stuck in those stress loops that have been established, right, by just what's considered a normal routine. I hope that makes sense. So what do you have to do to change things up, right? Because, again, having this kind of negative bias in the world that is the default, that is not going to be conducive to your healing, repairing, detoxifying. Usually, in my experience, the people who come to me who, I give them the nutrition protocol, I give them the detox protocol, I give them the supplements, and they don't see any change, it's because they still have the same basic attitude, structure, belief system, thought patterns, right? Those kind of things aren't changing, and that is why they are not seeing progress. And that is why I was so intentional about bookending my book, around putting in my first and last support protocol around really changing these patterns in the limbic system, in the nervous system, because that's the most important thing, right? Like, even if those are the only chapters of my book that you work through, that is going to make more of a difference than if you try to change your diet or start new supplements, but you're not doing that other nervous system brain retraining work. I can't emphasize this enough. It's so important. And honestly, I think this is part of why I recovered in the timeline that I did. I mean, it took me 2 years or more, right? But that's actually pretty fast considering how sick I was. And I think it's because I completely threw myself into a huge mindset shift. That was discombobulating. It was very intense, but it allowed me to actually heal in a way that not everyone has been able to. So meditation is the baseline, right, of limbic system retraining. And I don't mean just sitting and letting your thoughts spiral, right? It needs to be a very structured meditation practice. And usually the one I use is just a basic quiet mind meditation. It's actually fairly advanced quiet mind meditation. You really have to practice it. And so this is not something you just sit down and do, right? That's like expecting yourself to go into the gym and deadlift 300 pounds your first day. Quiet mind people spend, 20 years practicing, trying to achieve this, right? So it's no small feat, but that practice is so essential because even if you can get a few seconds here and there of a quiet mind, there are profound therapeutic benefits to your nervous system from this. And so really what it is it's trying to find the space between your thoughts. That's really what a quiet mind meditation is. It's just bringing yourself back over and over and over again to try to notice where there is space, where there is emptiness, and to move into that space and move into that emptiness. And like I said, you're going to be deadlifting, 40 pounds first, right? So you might not get a flash of it at all when you first start, but again, it's the practice. You keep doing those super light deadlifts because you'll be able to lift 50 pounds and then 60 pounds and then 70 pounds and then 100 pounds. And so it's just finding that space. I could do a whole video on quiet mind meditation, and actually I should maybe have my husband do this because this is the stuff he specializes in. But that's the basic of like bringing a meditation practice into your routine. Now, it also has to do with how you speak and how you think. So it's not just having, a 5, 10, 15, 20-minute meditation practice. It's all throughout the day, how you speak and how you think. So you have to start correcting your thoughts because when you are just kind of in default mode, you're always going to be thinking and assuming the negative, right? Just in all these little micro ways. Once you really start paying attention, and the quiet mind meditation will help you start paying more attention to the running narrative that you have, right? Because you're looking for the space in between that narrative. And so you'll become a lot more aware of it, and you'll realize how negative you think about yourself, about the world, about other people, just these automatic knee-jerk thoughts, right? All the time. And if we're just on autopilot doing our little daily routine, it becomes a huge problem, right? Because we're just seeing threats and negativity everywhere. And so you have to start pausing yourself and replacing that thought with a more neutral assumption. I go through how to do this in detail in my book, but that's the basic concept. You also need to stop researching. This one's really tough, especially for people who have complex and rare chronic illnesses. This was a big one for me. because when I first started healing, I would lie in bed for sometimes an hour or two every morning just researching. Because I knew there had to be answers, and in some ways I'm glad I did, because it got me on to the path I needed to be on. But at some point I had to stop. At some point I just tuned it all out, and I just focused on the basic practices that I knew were going to make long-term change, and I just let the research go. And once I got into remission and started this as my career, I started researching again, but now I can do it with a much more neutral mindset of just gathering information. So if you feel activated, anxious, tense, worried after you're researching, which you probably are, you need to stop. You need to just keep focusing on your basic practices that you already know, focus on the protocol that you're already implementing, and let everything else go. Symptom scanning is a big issue. A lot of times, people with chronic illnesses are much more hyper aware of all their bodily sensations, much more than people who aren't chronically ill. And it does make sense, because a lot of times you've had some really scary, debilitating symptoms that started small and then got really terrifying. I've been there. I get it. But this leads us, again, this hyper awareness of every little thing happening in our body. I mean, when I do intakes with people, it's very often that they will tell me every little twitch and spasm and ache and pain that they have through their whole body, right? And most of those are like actually not important at all, right? They're just little side effects of much bigger issues going on, but they're hyper focused on all these little things happening in every area of their body. And so you get into this habit, right, of scanning your body for like what hurts today, right, what feels weird today, and you will find more and more the more you tune into that. And so you actually need to start ignoring that, and or at least scanning neutrally, and just kind of noticing things and moving on with your day. So that's a really big one too. And then we have to go towards what other kinds of experiences we are cultivating, right? And so replacing the negative or uncomfortable sensations with positive sensations. And it's amazing what your brain can do when you really focus, right? You can actually cultivate, you can actually like trigger the release of positive hormones and neurotransmitters just through your focus and your intent. I know it sounds kind of wild, but it's not new age at all. It's very scientific. Your brain is the... Oh, shoot. My battery is running out. I think I can get through this video, though. Your brain is the control center, right? And so through, again, focus and intention, you can shift the way that your brain produces chemicals. Hang on one second. I was going to just wait and do this till I'm done, but that's fine. My husband's going to plug it in for me, if he doesn't trip and die. Where was I? Oh, yes. So cultivating positive sensations. And so this is literally visualizing and imagining yourself in these blissful situations. And again, you don't expect yourself to go to the gym and deadlift 300 pounds the first time, right? This is the same principle. It's going to be really hard. You might not be able to get this at all in your body, especially if you deal with a lot of pain and discomfort with your conditions. But you have to start practicing. And so you can do visualization, you can do gratitudes, you can do affirmations, you can do prayer, you can focus on positive recollections. When was the last time you tried to focus on good memories? That's something that people just don't do, right? And you can laugh, you can read silly jokes, you can watch stand-up, you can listen to comedy podcasts. All of these things, you're trying to cultivate these positive experiences and sensations in your body through your intent, through your focus. It doesn't matter if it feels corny. Honestly, the more I get into this kind of stuff, the cornier it is, probably the better it is. So you've just got to lean into it and accept that it's going to be corny, and it's going to start completely changing the way you experience yourself and experience the world. And then you really have to start thinking about how you're engaging with your environmental inputs. How are you engaging with the music that you listen to, the sounds that are in your space? modern music is often very dysregulating, right? And a lot of song lyrics are very, very negative, very, very activating, very aggressive or sad. You have to really think about every input that you are exposing yourself to because it is going to change the state of your nervous system. Same thing with social media and media in general. It's just the level of intensity that has been normalized as just like the drama of everyday life. I mean, when you start separating yourself from it, it's really remarkable what is considered just like a normal day of engagement when it comes to media or social media or anything like that. And it's actually sometimes hard to find accounts that are not fear mongering and are not trying to get you angry or anxious, to get your likes and to get your views. And same thing with TV shows, same thing with movies, right? Same things with news reports, right? It's trying to hook you in. It's trying to get you angry, activated, anxious, afraid. And it's not anything like diabolical, I don't think. I think it's really just that because people respond to it, because they are exploiting our negativity bias. They are exploiting the fact that most of us have very overactive limbic systems, and we get addicted to that, right? Because our brain is trying to keep us safe, and it's like, wait, there's another potential threat, there's another potential bad thing. And so you really have to curate hard. When you're doing limbic system retraining, you have to probably unfollow 90% of the accounts you're currently following. You have to completely change the media you are consuming. Like, no more horror, no more crime, even action, right? Like, all of these genres. Honestly, just a lot of reality TV, right? Just anything you might think you're being calmed by it, you're not, right? It's just comfort because you're getting that rush of subtle fear that is being exploited. So, same thing with the relationships that you're in. Are you connecting with people by venting and complaining? Right? Do you all get together and talk about how your kids suck and your husband sucks and you had this terrible situation with your mom last week and how frustrating it was at your job this week? That all has to stop, right? So you really have to think about just the way you are connecting with people and what you are connecting on. Same thing with any people-pleasing tendencies, any self-sacrificing tendencies. Now, giving back with gratitude and joy, that is something totally different, right? People who volunteer, who have certain responsibilities related to that, is in a structured capacity, providing for others and being giving to others, that is connected with health benefits, right? But this like deep resentment of feeling like you have to sacrifice things for other people to be a good person, that needs to stop, right? So, really looking deeply at your patterns, right? And the deeper emotional responses you're having to the interactions you're engaged in day to day. Okay, this video is getting pretty long, so I think I'm going to wrap it up. But again, I just want to emphasize how important this kind of stuff is. It's often thought of as like a minor afterthought, right? Like, oh, change your diet and take these supplements and do this detox protocol. And you also might want to, do some meditation as well. But really, what I am finding more and more is this has to be the foundation. And again, that is why I start and end my book with protocols that are based on reshaping the limbic system, retraining the nervous system. And so I really encourage you to start working through those protocols if you haven't already. In my book, there is a link to my guided meditations that will help you visualize this process more. And yeah, I think that's all my updates today. Take care, everyone.